Got one.
Flat side.
Flat side.
What rod and reel setups do you need for multi-species bank fishing? What is good, everybody? Welcome back to Cross Country Bank Angler. And as you can see, it is cold. It is wintry out here. We just had some snow come down yesterday. Very unusual for this time of year around me. But that's neither here or there, because today we're going to talk about the top 3 rod and reel setups every multi-species bank angler should have, in my opinion. So the way this video is going to go is I'm going to talk through the setups that I opt for when I am out multi-species fishing, exploring ponds or reservoirs or creeks around me. Then after that, I'll have a little bit of fishing footage, kind of demonstrating these setups on the water and making some catches with them. So to kind of get started here, I'm saying 3 setups here, but recommending 3 because that's the most that I'm going to bring with me on a bank fishing trip. I think if you're taking more than 3, and in my opinion, it gets a little too cumbersome, a little too complicated. Having a bunch of different setups is nice. You can have a bunch of different, presentations rigged up. But when things are getting tough, sometimes having all those options can get a little confusing. So when it comes to how many you should actually bring, kind of use your best judgment. There are days when, like I said, I'll take all 3, but there are also days where I'll just bring 1 rod. Some days I want to just go, fish a creek, and a lot of times on those days I'll take, a BFS setup along, right? Or maybe my ultralight rod. But if you do just want to take one setup for general purpose fishing, and you don't feel like taking a bunch of other stuff along, or maybe you're going in an area that's kind of hard, where it's sort of harder to bring a bunch of different rods with you, then I would recommend starting with a spinning rod. Specifically, what I'm using here is a medium light. This is a medium light, extra fast, 6'10" length. Now you can also go with a medium here. I don't think there's a huge difference between a medium light and a medium, but you can throw just a little bit lighter baits on a medium light. And the rod I've got here, this is the Cadence Primo. It's a 3,000 size reel. This is the Kastking Valiant Eagle. And I do use braided line, guys. This is 10-pound braid to a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. Braid is super thin diameter, and it lets you cast really far. It also handles really well on the rod. You don't get as many wind knots with braid on a spinning reel. And if you're a beginner, you can just pull up some 10-pound mono if you don't want to worry about tying leaders and all that stuff. But you can do just a ton of different things on a medium or a medium light spinning setup, guys. You can throw finesse lures for bass, for instance, little plastic worms, Ned rigs, wacky rigs, small swim baits. But if you don't want to target bass, you can also throw things like, a little 2-inch grub or a crappie, or an inline spinner at your favorite local river for trout. And really, this is about as universal of a rod and reel setup as you can get, to me. A medium or a medium light spinning outfit. And this is a 6'10". I think really anything between a 6-foot and a 7-foot will work pretty well. It really just depends on, do you want a shorter rod with a little more accuracy, a little easier to use around brush and stuff like that, or do you want a longer rod for better distance? Alright, so the next setup I'm going to talk about, guys, is going to be a medium heavy bait casting setup, and this is kind of like the go-to, kind of a classic setup for bass fishing, especially, right? This is for your heavier lures. I would say anything a 1/4 ounce and up, particularly some of those bigger power fishing techniques, right? A frog, or something like a chatterbait or a spinnerbait, a bigger crankbait, anything where you're going to be casting and retrieving a lot, and you want accurate cast. You want to be able to make accurate casts. You want to have a lot of control over your line and your cast. You want to be making a lot of casts quickly. A bait caster is going to do a better job than that spinning outfit that I was talking about before. So yeah, this is a 7-foot, medium heavy, fast action rod, Kastking G2, which I've used extensively over the years. Caught a lot of fish on it. Good budget rod. And then I've got that paired with the Alba Garcia Max Pro, which I've also talked about quite a bit. Great, relatively affordable reel. And I've got this spooled with 15-pound copolymer line, which I think is pretty solid for basically any kind of, it's just a good general purpose line. It's pretty tough, but it's not super heavy. You can still cast a pretty good distance with it. If you're really going to be around, say, a lot of heavy cover guys, thick weeds, a lot of brush where you're worried about fish, taking you into heavy cover, or you just know that you're going to be using certain techniques that really call for it, like a frog, you can switch this line out to braid, anything from 30 to 50-pound braid. But if you're going after bigger, more powerful game fish, it doesn't have to just be bass, guys. Pike, muskie, snakeheads. Having a heavier rod for those faster moving techniques, those heavier, bigger lures, you're going to have a better experience. You're going to catch more fish. Now, you don't have to ever use a bait caster if you don't really want to, if you're not confident in it. You can just get a heavier spinning setup and make most of these techniques work. But the bait caster is more refined, it's more comfortable to use, and overall I think it just gives a better experience with those heavier lures. You can really kind of control the fish a little bit better, and there's less movement going on up here at the reel when you're winding in a fish. So there are definitely some advantages to learning it if you haven't already, guys. But that bait caster is number 2 on the list. So third on the list here, and this is really something that a lot of anglers overlook, I think. And if you're really trying to catch whatever's in your pond, big or small, and really on those tough days when things aren't really working out, it's always a good idea to have a ultralight setup as sort of a backup, or as just a way to try to figure out what species are out there when maybe your other setups aren't really producing, guys. This allows you to throw some extremely small presentations way more effectively than on the spinning, and definitely on the bait caster. This can do things those rods just can't. If you really want to present something small, something delicate, 1 or 2 inch, or 1 48th ounce, 1 32nd ounce, 1/64th of an ounce, 1/100th of an ounce. You do need one of these ultralight setups, guys. This is a 5'6" rod. It's called the Daiwa Spinmatic, and I got that paired with a Shimano Sienna size 1000 reel with 4-pound mono on here. You could also switch this out to braid if you want. That's kind of personal preference on an ultralight, I think. Sensitivity is mostly about the rod, in my opinion, when you're going down to ultralight. But this can save the day sometimes when the bigger fish just aren't biting, and this can kind of just help you have fun on those days where you'd otherwise get skunked, or where things are just tougher, right? Maybe there's a lot of pressure in the lake that you're fishing. That's very common these days. So being able to cast a little downsized presentation can make a huge difference. We've got a float rig that I've rigged up on here right now, but you can really, any kind of downsized technique, guys, this ultralight can do it. You know, 5'6" is kind of short, right? But it's a great length for smaller bodies of water, you know, ponds, creeks, and when you're around a lot of brush. You know, if you're casting around a bunch of, you know, trees or branches or whatever along the bank, this 5'6" is much more comfortable to use, and you can also cast a little more accurately with that short rod. Now, obviously, you sacrifice distance, so you know you could get a 6 foot, you know, or 7 foot ultralight rod. It just depends on the situations where you know you're going to be in. Are you fishing those smaller places, or are you going to be fishing on a big reservoir? You got to make that call for the local bodies of water around you. Now, I will do one little honorable mention here. You know, if there's a day where, you know, I pretty much know that I'm not going to be throwing the tiniest lures that I have in the box, but I still want to have something that's finessey that can cast some pretty small stuff. I will often switch over to a BFS setup instead of that ultralight, or sometimes instead of the medium spinning rod. But I think the BFS, this is kind of more of a specialty setup. This is a 6 foot light power rod, and I don't have line on it right now, but normally I have 7-pound test mono on here. But if you like a bait caster, you still want to be able to throw some of those smaller things. BFS is just a fun alternative. That's really when I often choose this, if I just want to have a little more fun. And that's what fishing's about, right, most of the time. So yeah, this is just a very handy way. You know, you have a lot of the benefits of the bait caster, but in a smaller package, and you're kind of negates the biggest weakness of the bait caster, in my opinion, which is their limitations when it comes to casting those smaller lures. But with these specialized reels, with shallow spools, lightweight spools, that issue is basically a thing of the past. Great setup for pond fishing, creeks. Once again, those smaller bodies of water is where I think the BFS setup makes more sense. And you can go big, you know, in terms of your rod, you can go ultralight, short, tiny rod, or you can go longer, a little bit beefier. Anyway, guys, I hope this discussion about rod and reel equipment was helpful for you. You know, if you're a beginner, that's something that really is important to understand, is kind of harmonizing your rods and your reels and your line and the weight of the lures that you're casting. If you don't have that stuff figured out, you're going to have a hard time fishing and catching fish, and it's just not going to be very fun because, you know, your equipment is more at risk of failing on you or breaking or fish getting off, you know, stuff like that, you know, tangles, stuff that frustrates people when they get into fishing. You know, a lot of people, they fish for a little bit, you know, they have a couple of good days, and then they kind of get caught up in some of the technical stuff, and they get discouraged and lose interest. So anyway, guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, I'm going to run some of that fishing footage that I was talking about earlier. I hope you enjoy. And thanks again for watching.
Since the water is down, it sort of changes everything.
There's a bass right there.
Must be your,
He's like 9 inches probably. Here, cast him in front of him. Of course, usually when you can see them swimming up shallow like that, they're not feeding.
bit it.
You got him?
No.
Well, why didn't you get him?
It was funny. I wound it up, and I brought it right up to him, and I stopped it right, and I stopped, and he went right up to it and was just sitting there like that.
He was like staring at
Eye
it.
to eye, and all of a sudden he went bam, and he bit it, and then I pulled it, but I think I just
Maybe he just didn't get hooked.
he didn't get hooked.
That's funny.
I'm telling you, if he's fishing this lake, there's no food in here.
There's one.
Bluegill?
Yeah, might be a bass.
I think it's a bass. I'm telling you, there's no bluegill left.
All right, first fish of the day is a pretty skinny looking bass.
No color. They usually come out of this lake with, you know, a big lateral line.
Yeah. He's a little washed out, maybe 9-10 inches on a good day. All right, well, at least it was on ultralight and he got to fight a little bit. See a little bass. Got one.
That side?
Flat side. Haha, that's a decent one.
Yep.
All right, that's more like it, guys. It's more like the standard we're used to in this lake. On the old OG Tiny 4, the Rapala. It's one of my go-tos in this particular body of water. And I got hooked twice on one hook. Oh, got him. Okay. That's not bad. It's like a pound.
But he's not plump.
It's not fat. It's definitely not fat. All right, guys. It's like a 12 or 13 incher on the flat side crank. One of my favorite lures. Low water out here. All right, nice one on the crankbait, guys. He smoked it. Thank you, buddy. There's one bass in here was willing to eat. See if we can. It was like in the middle of the cast, probably 30 or 40 feet off the bank. So yeah, fairly deep. This does seem like one of the deeper areas, so maybe they just are kind of concentrated here.
Lifetime warranty.
Lifetime warranty.
It's so awkward to get down this bank.
Yeah, I know. It's like a little cliff you gotta go down. But you do get a little more casting distance. Got him. I do love this lure. All right, fish number 2 on the flat side. They're turning on a little bit, guys. And it's not just the little baby ones.
Yeah, that's a stout one right there.
All right, fish number 3. Still kind of skinny, but it's like 14 incher, 13 incher.
Let's just see, fisherman. Close that mouth down. 13 and a half, not a bad analysis.
I can usually eyeball them unless they get really big.
13.
That one does have the lateral stripe on it.
Yeah, it does.
All right, fish number 2, guys. Appreciate you, fish. Got one. On that little spinner.
What is it?
Crappie?
Skinny crappie.
Alright, people. First few casts. Over here. We caught ourselves a crappie. About average size for this lake, like 7 or 8 inches. Fell for a little spinner. Alright, people. First catch at the pond here. Little crappie. Black crappie. Thank you, buddy. Got one. Bass. Flat side.
On the flat side.
Yep. Alright, guys. Haven't switched any lures over from the other lake. This guy was barely hooked. Nice. He smoked it, guys. Here we go. About a 11 or 12 incher. Gave a decent fight. Yes, sir. I haven't been out here long at all. Love to see it. Especially for this time of year. Things can be tricky. Fish number 2 out here at the pond, guys. Let's let him go.
That corner.
Where the shade is, yeah.
Well, it's weedy over there though. I've caught most of the things I've caught over there were either on plastic ones or that rubber root. That's more in the spring.
Got one. Swim bait.
Bam. Oh, that's a nice
Ah.
one for this lake.
Yes, sir. All right, buddy. You're caught. You're caught. Shook my bait off.
The swim bait's for swim with the fish. He hit it way out there, didn't he?
Yeah, I counted it down about 5 seconds and then started reeling in.
Boom.
A couple of turns. Bam. I'll show you what I was using. It's very, very natural. All right, guys. That's another fish out here. It's been a little while since we caught anything. That was a long cast out to the mill. That's the best one of the day. On a swim bait. Pretty bass there. Let's let him go. Appreciate you, fish. Come on, get out of here. Off he goes. Got another one. I'd come over here if I were you. I said, come over here if I were you. Got another one. Yeah. Yes, sir, guys. About a 12-incher. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fish number 5, guys. Fish number 5 there. Average size bass for this lake. On that little Mr. Crappie shad pole on the ultralight. Junebug chartreuse. Made about 3 casts over here, 2 fish. Alright guys, let's let this bass go. Having a good old time here at the little pond today. Thank you, fish. Appreciate you, buddy. So yeah, maybe they all just, I don't know what happened to them.
I wonder if an otter could even get something that big.
Not if they reach a certain size, I wouldn't think so. There's one. You see that?
Got one too.
Oh, nice. We hit the school over there. We hit the school.
I know where the school is now.
Small.
Bass.
What happened to yours?
Got off.
Set the doggone hook. What are you doing? Come on, Paw. Might have just been too small and didn't get the hook.
No, it was about the same size as yours. I should have.
Well, cast right out there. Maybe it looked like there must have been a group.
It's a group, obviously, right out there.
All right, guys, little bass here.
On 20. Right after yours bit, mine bit.
I thought we were going to double up.
Right there is where you need to be.
I mean, I barely even moved it that time. Well, make a couple more casts and I think I need to hit the road.
So what's the technique for getting one of those end loops that happens right at the last segment out?
Oh, I'll tell you after I reel in this fish. I was on the swim bait.
Bigger. Ooh. Wow. Reached out.
He's pretty angry. I barely let that hit the water. You should just stay out here and keep casting that swim bait around.
I need that. I need one of those yellow things because all the last 3 you've caught it on that yellow thing.
This isn't.
Oh. Okay.
Just steady wind, slow. That one's a little skinny, but that's decent. Yeah. All right, guys. They're still biting. I have to leave. Gotta leave them biting today. It's always pretty good when you can say that. All right, get on out of here. Not an easy way to release them cleanly, but thank you for biting, buddy.